They stole my grandfather's 1,500-acre ranch while I was dodging bullets overseas, but what they didn't know was that I own the ground beneath every $10 million mansion they built on it. And that mistake cost them everything. They sold my grandfather's ranch while I was dodging bullets overseas. That's the call I got while serving in Eastern Europe. Imagine bleeding for freedom in a war zone, only to hear that some HOA president named Vivian Ashworth sold off the ranch that's been in your family since 1892. My grandfather, a Purple Heart veteran, was buried on that land. 1,500 acres of rolling hills, cattle pastures, and a pristine lake, gone. Surveyors hammered stakes through our family cemetery while bright orange sold signs pierced our soil like daggers. The price? Just $2.3 million. That's less than $3,000 an acre for land worth $8,000 each. They thought they'd stolen everything from me, a broke veteran with only $247 in the bank. But what Vivian didn't know was that my grandfather left me a hidden weapon buried in 1960s property documents, something that would turn her empire into dust. Vivian Ashworth. If you picture every nightmare HOA president rolled into one, you've got her. She drove a white Mercedes G-Wagon, wore sunglasses that cost more than my combat pay, and filed 47 HOA complaints in a single year. Standing in my driveway, she sneered, "Military housing allowance doesn't cover property taxes, does it, soldier boy?" She shoved forged papers in my face, claiming my grandfather hadn't paid property taxes. Lies. I had the bank records to prove every payment. But the county clerk, the local attorney, even the sheriff, everyone seemed to be in her pocket. Her smear campaign started immediately. Social media posts painting me as a dangerous veteran. Security cameras aimed at my land like I was a criminal. Restraining orders banning me from my own county. Vivian thought she was untouchable. What she didn't realize was that military training teaches patience and strategy, and I was about to play chess while she was still moving checkers. When you're trained in intelligence, you know the truth hides in paperwork. I drove 200 miles to the state archives and dug through dusty files. There it was, proof that every tax payment had been made. Fraud, clear as day. Even better, we discovered the HOA itself hadn't filed proper incorporation documents for years, meaning every rule they enforced was legally void. And then came the bombshell. My grandfather had quietly purchased mineral and subsurface rights in 1963. That meant while Vivian sold the surface land to build 50 mansions, the ground underneath, the very foundations, still belonged to me. I wasn't just the rightful owner of the soil. I owned the legal foundation under every $10 million lakefront mansion in Willowmere Estates. In other words, those houses were standing on my property. With my lawyer Sarah Chen, we built an airtight case, forged documents, embezzled funds, missing HOA money, and now subsurface rights worth $47 million. At a packed community meeting, Vivian strutted in with her $800 an hour attorney ready to intimidate. She offered me a settlement, 400 acres of my own land back for $1.2 million. I stood up, calm and steady, and revealed the truth. On the projector, my grandfather's 1,963 mineral rights documents lit up the screen. Gasps filled the room. 50 homeowners suddenly realized their mansions sat on land they didn't own. Then Margaret, a retired schoolteacher and neighbor, played a recording of Vivian bragging about forging tax documents. The room erupted. That's when the FBI walked in. In front of 200 residents, Vivian Ashworth was arrested for wire fraud, conspiracy, and violations of veterans' property rights. The once untouchable queen of the HOA was led out in handcuffs while the crowd cheered. Vivian got 5 years in federal prison. Every stolen dollar was returned with interest. My family's 1,500 acres were restored. But I didn't stop there. Instead of bankrupting the innocent homeowners, I sold them the subsurface rights at a veteran's discount. The HOA was rebuilt with honest leadership, veterans workshops spread statewide, and we started a scholarship fund in my grandfather's name. And the best part? Our fight became a legal precedent protecting veterans and families across America from corrupt HOAs. Today, when I sit on my porch overlooking the restored rose garden and my grandfather's headstone, I hear his words in the wind: when your enemy makes mistakes, don't interrupt them. Vivian thought she could steal my inheritance. Instead, she handed me the power to dismantle her empire. And that's how one veteran turned an HOA land grab into the most expensive property lesson in history. Vivian thought she could bury my family's legacy under concrete and lies. Instead, she buried herself in federal prison. Justice was served, my land was restored, and every veteran in America got a new weapon against corrupt HOAs. Want more stories where underdogs fight back and win? Hit that like button, subscribe, and share your own HOA nightmare in the comments, because together we make sure tyrants never win. If you've ever had a nightmare HOA story, drop it in the comments. Let's expose these petty tyrants together. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story so more people know how to fight back.